It's been a dream to join the MCU. The movie is called The Fantastic Four. I'll confess, I did all my stretching for...
Pascal is getting very defensive. He's getting very much, of course, vocal toward the critics, toward Marvel fans, blaming everything on Trump, blaming everything on MAGA and Trump supporters again.
Times I felt like I was in a Reed Richards science class, which is not what I really wanted to be in.
Pedro Pascal is firing back. He's getting very tired of...
Look, this is not a life-changing, the MCU has been saved, this movie paid off my car, this movie cured my depression. It's not that. It's really not.
And now you got Disney CEO Bob Iger only making matters worse.
Nobody expected this. The Fantastic Four reboot was supposed to be Marvel's grand return, a bold billion-dollar relaunch to kickstart the next phase of the MCU. But instead, it flopped. Hard. Not just your average disappointment. This was a full-on collapse. Within weeks of release, the numbers were plummeting. Fan reactions were brutal. And behind the scenes, Disney was in full-blown panic mode. But what happened next? Nobody saw coming. Because instead of owning the failure, Disney's top execs did something shocking. They blamed the audience. And Pedro Pascal, he made it worse. A lot worse. In interviews, he went off, dragging politics, MAGA, and Trump supporters into the conversation. He wanted a culture war, not a movie release. That's when Bob Iger, Disney's CEO, completely lost it. He released a statement so defensive, so aggressive, it only poured gasoline on the fire. Now fans are angry, critics are stunned, and insiders are calling this Marvel's biggest PR disaster since the original Justice League mess. So how did Marvel go from billion-dollar hype to total brand breakdown? Let's break it down.
That Disney and Marvel Studios, they went into panic mode, they went into damage control mode over, of course, all the Hollywood trades talking about this. And
Marvel knew they were taking a risk, but even their worst projections didn't predict this kind of disaster. Fantastic Four. First steps barely scraped past $367 million worldwide, and that's after a massive 66% global drop just 2 weeks in. For a Marvel flagship reboot? That's catastrophic.
Box office metrics for the Fantastic Four First Steps now sitting at $367 million worldwide and actually going through a 66% drop globally speaking.
This wasn't supposed to be just another superhero movie. It was supposed to launch the next MCU era, paving the way for Avengers, Doomsday and Spider-Man, Brand New Day. Instead, it triggered a massive internal crisis. According to multiple insiders, Disney executives were blindsided. Internal emails allegedly used the word collapse. And Marvel Studios? Total silence. Theaters reported empty seats. Pre-sales dried up. Online chatter wasn't about excitement. It was about disappointment. And fans weren't just bored. They were angry. But if you thought the numbers were bad, what happened next dragged this flop into full-blown controversy. Because one of Marvel's biggest stars made it political? You'd think after a box office disaster, Disney would tighten the PR leash. But instead, Pedro Pascal grabbed the mic and threw gasoline on the fire. In multiple press interviews, Pascal didn't talk about the characters. He didn't talk about the story. He went straight for the culture war, blaming the movie's backlash on Trump supporters, MAGA fans, and what he called politically motivated hate. And just like that, Marvel had a new headline. Not about superheroes, not about storylines, but about politics. Social media erupted. Some praised him for speaking out, but most absolutely livid. Left, right. It didn't matter. Fans were exhausted. They didn't pay to be dragged into a political shouting match. They just wanted a decent film. And now, thanks to Pascal's outburst, the conversation shifted even further away from the movie itself. Internationally, the impact was even worse. Overseas marketing campaigns fell flat. Publicity tours were cut short. And inside the studio, one name kept popping up: Pedro Pascal. But he wasn't the only one fanning the flames. Disney's own CEO just exploded. When the CEO of Disney starts ranting publicly, you know things are bad. Bob Iger, normally the calm, composed face of Disney, just snapped. In a long-winded statement clearly written out of desperation, he went on the offensive. He defended the film like it was the company's crown jewel, claimed critics were politically motivated, accused reporters of false narratives, and then he said the unthinkable. He compared Fantastic Four, First Steps to Avengers, Endgame. That's when fans lost it. The backlash was immediate. Memes flooded Twitter. YouTubers went on rants. Reddit threads exploded. "Better than Endgame?" one fan wrote. "This man's never even seen Endgame." But Iger didn't stop there. He called Pedro Pascal one of our most valuable actors, doubling down on the very controversy dragging the film through the mud. The message was clear. Disney wasn't just in denial, they were blaming the audience. Instead of accepting the flop, they attacked the people who didn't buy tickets. And if that sounds like brand suicide, that's because it is. And the damage didn't stop there, because the fans were about to turn on Marvel itself. Marvel fans are loyal, but even loyalty has limits. After Pedro's political outburst and Bob Iger's meltdown, longtime MCU supporters started speaking up, and it wasn't pretty. Comments poured in across Reddit, YouTube, and Twitter. Not about diversity, not about agendas, but about quality. Fans weren't asking for perfection, they were asking for a good movie. And what they got instead was corporate gaslighting. You don't like the movie, you're a political hater. Didn't enjoy the script, you must be biased. Marvel wasn't listening, it was attacking. And that shift, turning criticism into culture war, pushed fans away in droves. You could feel the energy drain from the fandom. A community once buzzing with excitement now sounded burned out and bitter. Even die-hard defenders started admitting it. Something's wrong. And that fatigue, it wasn't just about the drama, it was about who was leading the franchise now. Because Pedro Pascal is Mr. Fantastic, that decision triggered a whole new storm. Let's be honest, casting matters. Pedro Pascal might be a household name, but as Reed Richards, the internet had doubts from the start. And now, those doubts have exploded into full-blown outrage. He didn't look the part, he didn't sound the part. And according to fans, he didn't feel like Mr. Fantastic. Social media is full of side-by-sides. John Krasinski versus Pascal. One looked like a natural fit. The other, a Hollywood experiment that failed to land. Even some critics who liked the movie's visuals admitted Pascal's performance felt flat and out of sync. A lead actor is supposed to elevate the story. Instead, many say he dragged it down. And it wasn't just about acting, it was about image. Pedro's off-screen controversies bled into his on-screen role, and fans couldn't separate the two. Every time he talked politics, it reminded people why they didn't feel connected to his version of Reed Richards. Disney gambled on star power, and they lost. But instead of fixing the problem, the studio doubled down. This should have been the moment Disney took a step back and recalibrated. But instead, they went into full corporate spin mode. Bob Iger stood firm, saying diversity, equity, and inclusion weren't just values. They were the future of Marvel. And anyone criticizing that direction, labeled agenda-driven. The message was clear. If you don't love this movie, it's not because it's flawed, it's because you're the problem. Leaked reports say studio heads are furious internally, but terrified to challenge the narrative. And Pedro? Untouchable. Insiders claim he's being shielded from criticism to protect his brand, and Marvel's. But protecting egos won't save a franchise. Fans aren't demanding the end of diversity. They're demanding the return of good storytelling, character development, and, above all, respect for the audience. Instead, they're getting finger-pointing, political rants, and a studio that seems more interested in fighting the critics than fixing the product. And with the next big MCU film around the corner, things could go from bad to worse. This was supposed to be the warm-up. Fantastic Four. First Steps wasn't just a reboot, it was Marvel's golden key to unlock Phase 5. The plan? Use this film to launch the next generation of heroes, and lead straight into Avengers Doomsday. But now, that entire plan is hanging by a thread. Pedro Pascal, who was meant to carry the franchise, has become its most controversial figure. The backlash isn't just about this one film, it's tainting everything connected to it, including the next Avengers movie. Fans are already warning Marvel, if Pedro's the face of the MCU now, we're out. Hashtags like Recast Reed and Boycott Doomsday are gaining traction, not as jokes, but as actual movements. And insiders are panicking. Reports say Marvel has serious concerns about using Pascal as a marketing figure moving forward. But pulling back now? That would look like defeat, so they're trapped. Either stick with the plan and risk another box office disaster, or course correct and admit the casting was a mistake. And then Bob Iger made things even more surreal. No one was ready for this one. In a last-ditch attempt to salvage the movie's reputation, Bob Iger publicly claimed Fantastic Four. First Steps is our most valuable film since Avengers Endgame. Yes, you read that right. He compared this to Endgame, the movie that shattered box office records, that united 10 years of storytelling. That gave us Tony Stark's final moment, and he compared it to a politically divisive, critically panned box office underperformer with a 66% drop in week 2. Fans were stunned, critics rolled their eyes, and the internet turned the statement into a meme overnight. Some called it desperate, others said it was delusional, but nearly everyone agreed. It confirmed one thing: Disney has lost touch with reality. Instead of listening to audiences, they're rewriting history. Instead of building trust, they're insulting intelligence. And Marvel's most powerful franchise, it's now being compared to its biggest failure. So what happens next? That depends on whether Disney is willing to face the truth. At the center of all this chaos are two names, Pedro Pascal and Bob Iger. One pushed politics into press tours, the other turned a franchise crisis into a corporate meltdown. And the fans, they're not just frustrated, they're done being blamed. Fantastic Four. First Steps was meant to be a reset, a comeback. But instead, it exposed Marvel's deepest problem, the growing disconnect between the studio and the people who built its empire, the fans. Pedro Pascal was supposed to lead Marvel's new era. Now, he may have just wrecked it before it even began. And Disney? They can keep pretending. They can keep spinning. But unless they start listening, this isn't just the fall of one film, it's the collapse of a legacy.